Okay, my friends, I think we're live. Let me see. Okay. I feel like it's been so long since I've been in front of the camera. I guess it has. Joy did our last quarantine kitchen, and then after that, we did our second episode of Come Bien en Casa, and I am behind the scenes on that. So I'm kind of excited to be here. Also very excited about the topic that we have today. If you can't already tell, I have a ginormous can of whole potatoes, and we're going to talk about it. So at the food bank, we've got a lot of these number 10 cans of whole new potatoes in our inventory. And we are going to highlight them to tell you how you can use them and how much food you can make with one can. I'll give you a hint. Don't be afraid if you can't use all of them before the course of a 5-day period, because they freeze really well. The cool thing about it is they're already cooked, so you don't have to do anything to them before you freeze them. With fresh potatoes, if you were going to freeze them, you would want to blanch them. And so these are already cooked and you don't have to worry about having to do any extra steps to put them in the freezer. So that's really awesome news to start off with. So the first thing I want to do is I want to show you how many potatoes you're going to get from one can. So let's see, I'm going to set this up with my little strainer here. There we go. Let me see. Can I turn this a little bit? And go up a little bit. There we go. Okay, now you can see my strainer. So we already got this can open. There we go. And there's our potatoes. So there's going to be various sizes. You're going to have some really small ones and you're going to have some larger ones. I did a little counting this morning. Okay, this may or may not work the way I wanted it to. I think my little scooper is a little too big, so we're gonna do this the fun way, and we're gonna dump it. Here we go. Okay. So back to talking about these guys. So I did some measuring this morning to see how much potatoes you're going to get from the can and thinking about how much time you would save not having to peel and boil whole potatoes. So these are, we've got about 4.5 pounds of already peeled and cooked potatoes in one number 10 can. That is a lot of potatoes. That is so much time that you're going to save in your meal prep by using these canned potatoes, especially in dishes where it's seasoned really nicely. So if you think there's going to be a tinny flavor, it will be covered up by the flavor of the rest of your dish. So I'm going to show you 3 different ways that you can use these canned potatoes, but honestly, the options are limitless. Whatever you like, wherever you like to use potatoes, you can use these potatoes in their place. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to divide these up into 3 separate bowls. I'm going to talk about how you can use one whole can to make meals throughout the entire week. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a glove, and that'll be easier. Go. So these are salted. They are cooked with salt. And I love that the can of this particular brand of potatoes gives you the nutrition information with the potatoes in the liquid and with the drain. Most of our canned foods don't give us that information, and I really appreciated that. So with them drained, you're going to save almost 100 milligrams of salt by draining off that liquid. So you would also typically rinse these, but I'm not going to rinse these just at this moment because I've already got all the potatoes I need for my recipes. I'm just showing you how we can divide them into 3 different recipes. So one number 10 can is about 109 ounces. That's equal to about 7 normal regular size 14.5 ounce cans. There's about 12 cups of potatoes in here. And then there's also, what was I gonna say? I said 4.5 pounds already. And what was the last thing? That may be all the things I was trying to say. 12 cups, I said that. Okay, so here are my 3 batches of potatoes. I'm excited to talk about this. So first I'm gonna go ahead and stir my pot over here, which is going to be like our dinner entree option with the potatoes in it. So this is a picadillo. So this is a Latin American recipe. It also is cooked in Spain, and it's basically a ground meat dish, and there are different versions depending on where it comes from. So this particular one is a northern Mexican version, and it has potatoes and carrots. My recipe, for our second episode of Come Bien en Casa, we were talking about making your meat last longer. So my recipe has some lentils in it to help to make the meat last longer. So it's got about half the original amount of meat, and half of that is lentils. So for now, at this point, I've got beef and carrots and onions sauteed, and then my sauce, which I blended together in a blender. It was a couple of Roma tomatoes, a bit of onions, some fresh garlic, and a jalapeno if you want it to be spicy. If you don't, leave that out. So it's just cooking here to get my onions soft. If you were using fresh potatoes, you would have added your potatoes at the same time as your carrots, because they would also need to fully cook through. So my potatoes are fully cooked, and I don't want them to overcook. So I'm going to simmer this just a little bit longer to get those carrots a little bit softer, and then I'm going to mix everything together. So stay tuned on this. So this recipe, this picadillo recipe, will serve 6 people, and it will use about a half a pound of our canned potatoes. So 6 people with half a pound. We still have 4 pounds of potatoes left. So let's continue and talk about another recipe. So everyone has their own favorite way to make potato salad. This version is just a little bit different, but it has a lot of flavor from spicy brown mustard and which one is this? This one is the Tuscan House Italian dressing. It doesn't have to be a particular brand or a particular flavor. The recipe calls for light Italian dressing, which often will have more sugar added to it because it's trying to balance out the flavor of not having fat. When it's light or fat-free salad dressing, it usually has like a food starch in it to make it be thick, like an emulsified salad dressing would be if it was an oil and vinegar. So this one will separate, while the light version or the fat-free version will not separate as much because of the food starch. That's just food science. So just wanted to tell you that. This one, I picked this one because it had the least amount of fat, and it had the least amount of salt. So for the salt, it has 250 milligrams for 2 tablespoons. And then the fat, it has 5 grams and then 1 gram of saturated fat. So this was the least amount of fat. If you made a homemade salad dressing, it would have more fat than this, but you would also potentially be using something like olive oil, which has a lot more quality characteristics than the vegetable oil blend that they'll use, like soybean oil and stuff like that. So this is convenient. These are convenient. We're talking about convenience today. Okay, so that's our salad dressing, and then we're using a spicy brown mustard. So this is a little less than the original recipe size because I'm not feeding a crowd. So this is This is about 3/4 of a pound of potatoes. The original recipe is 1.5 pounds. All I did was chop them up. I did not heat them up. I tasted them plain. They tasted cooked and they tasted a little salty because they were seasoned. So I'm not adding any more salt except for what's coming in our dressings today. So I've got about half of a red bell pepper and a green bell pepper, some green onions. You can use as much as you want here. If you like to have like a white onion or a red onion, please feel free to use that. This really adds a beautiful color. And then I added some parsley, which is not part of the recipe, but I was just really feeling it today. And that's what cooking is all about, is using what you want to use and maintaining a little bit of balance there. Okay, so we've got all of our ingredients for our potato salad. So I'm gonna get it all mixed up here. So I use about a 1/4 cup of these two dressings because I used about half of the potatoes. We're gonna add it and then we're gonna taste it and see if it needs anything else. This is my salad dressing. And this is my spicy brown mustard, which I'm like super excited about. I'm a huge mustard fan. My grandma makes potato salad, that yellow, and that's my absolute favorite because it's mustard heavy. That's my favorite. So I'm excited about this spicy mustard. This is just a little bit of black pepper. You can add more or less to your taste. And then we're just gonna mix it all up. There we go. Oh my goodness, look how beautiful and colorful that is. So as with everything tastes better the next day. So we're gonna taste it today, but we also know that it's gonna taste 5 times better tomorrow because all of the flavors have the time to marry. So if you're cooking for a potluck, you can use 1 whole number 10 can of potatoes and make this potato salad, and you will feed 16 or 18 people of full half-cup servings, like full servings. So that is just something to keep in mind if you've got a church potluck or a picnic or a birthday party or you name it, barbecue. Using one of these cans is going to save you a lot of time with the boiling and the peeling of the potatoes. For me personally, I don't ever peel potatoes. I give them a really good scrub and I keep the skin because the skin is going to give you some extra fiber and some extra minerals. I'm like, what is the word? So some extra minerals that are going to come from the dirt that it was grown in. So I like to keep the skin and that's my preference. But if you like to peel it, this is a great option. Look how beautiful and colorful this potato salad is. Beautiful. Okay, we're going to come back to this and taste everything at the end. So that is our potato salad. You saw how quickly I put that together. Okay, so I'm going to move 1 bowl of potatoes since we already made 1 dish. So for our second bowl of potatoes, we are going to make, you guessed it, mashed potatoes. So these potatoes, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Joy's going to help me out on this one. So let me go ahead and get this started. So anytime you have something that needs to be smashed or mashed, it's a great opportunity to get your kids involved in the kitchen. These potatoes have already been washed and drained off, so they're a lot drier than they were originally. You can see how shiny they are. So when you have kids around and using these canned potatoes and making mashed potatoes is going to be super quick and easy because the kiddos can smash the potatoes in the bag. So I'm just going to add my potatoes. And so just like potato salad, everyone has their own favorite way to make mashed potatoes. But today we're going to use a little bit of non-fat Greek yogurt in place of sour cream. Tastes the same, more benefits of Greek yogurt from Greek yogurt. And then we're going to use just some like regular 2% milk to just get the texture, the consistency, and some garlic powder. The potatoes are already salted, so I'm going to let Joy be the judge of how much we use for the yogurt and the milk, because that's what you do when you make potatoes. You eyeball it, you look at the consistency. I feel like I always add just a little bit more from whatever the recipe says to get the texture that I like. So same goes for you. We're gonna let Joy do the judging today on the texture here. So I'm going to pass this over to Joy, and she's gonna do the mashing in the background as if she were 5-year-old. So we're gonna let Joy have some fun. I mean, I just want to show you, it mashes so easy. Just goes, and that potato is already mashed, so fun.
Like having a really stressful day, just pop some potatoes and that,
Mash, mash, mash. Okay, so I'm gonna pass this over to Joy. Have fun. Okay, so that is our mashed potatoes. There we go. So each of these recipes that I'm talking about today feeds between 4 and 6 people. So if you have a larger household, your number 10 can of potatoes will not go as far across as many recipes, still gonna save you time and be super convenient. Maybe you're the type of person who likes to cook and have leftovers. This is a really great option. Okay, let me come back to my picadillo here, give it a stir, check on my carrot. It smells so, the awesome part about like traditional Mexican recipes is that they use fresh ingredients. So the sauce here was made with fresh tomatoes, and it was blended up in the blender to puree it into a beautiful sauce with onions and garlic, some oregano and some cumin. So when you add it to the pan, it like builds all of those flavors up together as it cooks down. You can absolutely use canned tomatoes, canned diced tomatoes here, and you don't have to puree it if you don't have a blender. It's okay. It'll just be a little bit more chunky, but it will still be delicious and turn out really great. So let me check one of these carrots here and see what my texture is. Oh my goodness. Okay, that's a good cooked carrot. Okay. So now I'm going to add the rest of my ingredients for my picadillo. So I mentioned that this is half a recipe. So the original recipe is half a pound of ground beef and half a cup of lentils. So these are my lentils that I have already cooked. These are brown lentils. Sometimes they're called green lentils because they have a little bit of a green tint, but you want to cook these ahead of time, or not ahead of time, but in a separate pot while you're cooking everything else for the dish. And the reason that we do that is because if the lentils are cooked with salt, any amount of salt, they're going to be harder to cook in the long run. They're going to take longer because the salt will harden the outside of the lentils. So cooking them separately in plain water will make them cook a lot faster. So they're going to be done in about 20 minutes. So added my lentils. This is going to be a little bit of potato from our canned potato. I just diced it up.
Kristen,
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Can you cook lentils in the microwave?
You can cook lentils in the microwave, and I do have a recipe for that, and I do not have it memorized. It has various in the steps it mentions like cooking on different heat levels for different amounts of time. So I just don't have that memorized. You can absolutely cook your lentils in the microwave. Just leave the salt out, the same as if you cook them on the stovetop. Thanks for that, Joy. You can add it to the folder. Yes, I'll definitely make sure that that gets added to the folder for this topic. Okay, so added my potatoes. So I'm gonna add some frozen peas. You can also use canned peas here. They cook so quickly, so that's why I'm adding them closer to the end. And I'm going to just put the lid on it and let this cook just to heat up through the potatoes and the peas. If you feel like your picadillo is a little dry, you can add a little bit of water at this step. I actually think I'm gonna add just a little. Don't add any more than a quarter cup at a time because you You can cook it down if you need to let some of the liquid evaporate, but at that point, your canned potatoes will be very done. So just keep that in mind. So this is a quarter cup. I'm not even going to use the whole quarter cup. I just wanted to get it a little bit more saucy because I like sauce. Okay. Keep the DO, putting the lid back on it. It's going to let it hang out just for a few more minutes. And the next thing I'm going to show you is a happy accident. I was trying to make smashed potatoes. If you've ever heard of, smashed potatoes, they're usually boiled small potatoes. You put them on a baking sheet and then you smash each one down to make it a little bit flat and spread out a little bit. Put a little bit of salt on the top and then you bake it that way. So you have more of a crispy surface area across the outside of the potato when you smash it. And that's what I wanted to do with these because they're done. They're cooked through and I wanted to try them at a high temperature. I wanted to try to smash them, but they're so soft that they just completely smashed. Whenever you use fresh potatoes, they'll smash, but they don't like fall apart into a million pieces. That's what these did. So that's what makes them great for mashed potatoes because they're just gonna fall apart really easily. So when I smashed them, they kind of fell apart and looked like this. So I'm like, okay, what can I do with this? I still want to bake it. So what I did instead of doing the smash method, the traditional smash, if you will, I did mash them all, like gave them one good mash with a potato masher. And then I used some cooking spray and I sprayed it over the top. I mixed it up, sprayed one little light layer again and mixed it up. Just so there is a little bit of oil across all the potatoes. And I want them to get crispy. If they didn't have enough oil, they won't get crispy, but I didn't want them to be greasy, so I used the cooking spray. And as for seasoning goes, I have some homemade ranch seasoning that we use when we do some kid classes sometimes. So I just decided to grab some of that, mix in the potatoes, mix, put a little bit more ranch on there until it looked like there was enough and I could smell it. I mean, this is like winging it as far as it goes. So I said, okay, we're going to just put it in the oven as if we were making them the smashed way. And they got a little extra crispy. I'm not mad about it. They taste really good. This would be really good as a side dish, kind of like hash browns, but in little chunks instead of like shredded. Eat it for breakfast. Eat it as a side dish. Put a piece of chicken on it with some like sauce or so, and they're delicious. So I'm just really happy with this happy accident that was supposed to be smashed whole potatoes. So this is a really good one. Use any seasonings you like here. I wouldn't myself use a store-bought packet of ranch seasoning because it has too much salt. I will make sure I add our ranch seasoning to the resource folder for this episode 22. So if you want to, you can use that. It does call for, it calls for buttermilk powder, which is dehydrated buttermilk. So it's just the solids from buttermilk, and that is shelf stable. I was able to find that at Walmart. Every time I needed it, I was able to find it at Walmart. But not trying to name drop here, but that's just where I was able to find it. It's not required. You can use all of the herbs that are in the mix. It has some dried green onion and some parsley and garlic and onion powder and dill. It has dill. So if you have those dried spices on hand, you can use those and you don't need the buttermilk powder. It does give it a little bit of a tang because of the sour of the buttermilk. But it'll be fine. You don't need it. So don't feel like you need to go buy that. You can use a packet of ranch seasoning. Just use less. Don't use the whole packet on this one dish because that's going to be too much. just too much salt in general. Whether you have a blood pressure problems or not, we could all, just limit our salt intake a little bit. So highly recommend doing this method. I guess I should tell you how long I cooked it. So it was 450 for about 20 minutes. You could go a little bit less if you wanted to, because mine got like a little extra crispy, but I'm not mad about it. I'm actually pretty excited. So that is our smashed 2.0 potatoes, if you will. So, hey Joy,
Yeah.
how's it going over there?
I'm having so much fun, I don't want to give it back to you.
Well, you can have it for a couple more minutes if you want. Well, we'll set a timer. It'll be like 2 more minutes.
Oh, I had 2 things I wanted to mention to you.
Yes.
I saw, we were looking at recipes yesterday. I saw roasted potato recipes that had Parmesan cheese
Yes.
in them, and I thought that might be a good, like, easy way to do it. That's something that a lot of people just have on here a lot.
Yes, definitely. So I did link a recipe that is like a stovetop version of roasted. And it has Parmesan cheese. So it's got some onion powder and garlic powder, and I think she added lemon juice to it and a little bit of water to sort of like just get them all cooked through and heated through. And then she put some Parmesan cheese. So yes, Parmesan cheese. I'm a part of a Facebook group called Shelf Cooking. There's a food blogger who her whole spiel on her blog is like using what you have in your pantry, which is exactly what we do. So I was super eager to join that Facebook group. But ironically, someone asked about canned potatoes last night as I was getting ready for bed. I do often ask this group about what they like to do with some particular canned ingredients. Like I posted about the canned carrots the last time I did Quarantine Kitchen and got a lot of really good feedback and a lot of common recommendations were like throw them in a pan or a cast iron. Like some people were like use Old Bay seasoning on them and just let them get crispy in the pan. You don't have to do it in the oven. A lot of people said Parmesan cheese. Yeah, a lot of people said to use Parmesan cheese. So thanks for saying that.
And one more question for you. We're doing this these mashed potatoes kind of the old-fashioned way, the kind of way, but I've learned the hard way, and you've learned the hard way about the cardinal rule for making mashed potatoes, what you don't want to do.
You don't want to use a food processor. Is that what we're talking about? Yes, you don't want to use a food processor if you're making mashed potatoes from fresh potatoes. So now I'm not exactly sure if that applies to these. Because I know that there's like waxy potatoes and there's stinky potatoes.
Right.
So I know there's a difference in the recommendation in how you do it. Like the red potatoes absolutely cannot use a food processor because they're gonna like be gluey and sticky if they get mixed too much. So doing like a hand mix and a hand mash is not too aggressive for the red potatoes.
I
But
think that's what these are. There's the smaller ones.
this is new potatoes. The can makes it look like they're white, like Yukon Gold. They kind of look like that on the can.
Okay.
But honestly, yeah, they kind of look like little Yukon Golds. Like so, this those that has the skin on it, and then this one in the front doesn't have the skin on it. Yeah, that was a really good point though. All right, you ready to try out this? I'm ready. Did you cut the corner? I did not. Okay. All right, these look like the creamiest mashed potatoes I've ever seen. All right, I'm going to cut the corner of this and I'm going to pipe them out. If you didn't know, you could do this for things like icing or batter. and use a Ziploc bag if you don't have a piping kit, because I don't have a piping kit. Who has a piping kit? Avid bakers have piping kits. Wow, that texture looks really great.
Thank you.
So those, oh, they smell good too. So that's our mashed potatoes from Canned Potatoes, mashed in a gallon Ziploc bag with some Greek yogurt and a little milk to just make sure the consistency is right. That looks pretty good to me. Okay. You ready to taste some stuff?
Yeah.
I put this off till the very end.
So many things to taste today.
So many things. Okay, so can you grab a couple of, well, 4 small bowls? I did not get that. All right, so we're gonna get some. So this has had a little bit of time to sit, so maybe it'll be delicious. If not, that's fine. We'll just wait till tomorrow. I love how colorful this is, and it looks like well dressed, like a lot of dressing, and I really like that. Okay.
I also like the fact that it does not have any mayonnaise in it.
And it looks creamy
Mm-hmm.
because of the mustard. That mustard really made it look creamy. Okay, so here's the potatoes. I'm just gonna mix them up. Oh my gosh, I can imagine eating this with ketchup. Anybody a ketchup person out there?
Oh, I'd like to put an egg on top of that.
Oh yes. Oh, for sure. For sure.
Take a deal?
Oh shoot. Last but not least, picadillo. It doesn't look like much, but it is so delicious. This is so delicious. All right. Okay, Joy, thank you. Pass these over. Okay, so what do you want to do first?
Mashed potatoes.
All right, let's go for the mashed potatoes. Okay. Not bad.
Not bad at all. I think I could have mashed them with a little bit more, but
yeah.
Next time. We know for next time.
These are also cold.
That's true. It's kind of weird to eat cold.
It's a little weird. Maybe you could heat them up in the microwave just to heat them through before you mash them up, and I bet that'll make it a little bit more smooth in the mashing. I don't think you're gonna get like super smooth mashed potatoes out of these. If you're the type of person that likes a little bit of texture, like some potato chunks, I like that. It's rustic.
I agree.
And so that's pretty good.
Whip on like with a handheld mixer or something like that.
Okay, what are you doing now?
The crispy one.
Okay. Our little crispy ranch potatoes.
That's fantastic.
That's everything that I wanted it to be.
I kind of feel like adding some of that ranch seasoning to the mashed potatoes.
That would be delicious. Yeah, please make this and let me know. This is delicious. That's good.
Oh my god.
We're gonna be full off of potatoes today.
Okay, potato salad time.
Potato salad. So I'm making sure I got a little bit of each of the peppers in there. Okay.
is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Reminds me of like a German potato salad.
Mm-hmm. It does, except it's cold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is really good. Highly recommend this. Very much. I was a little skeptic about the mustard and the salad dressing.
Mm-hmm.
I was just wondering if they would work really well together. Now that I think about it, though, a lot of salad dressings do have mustard in it as the emulsifier.
Right.
I don't know why I thought it was going to be weird, but that's really good. Very, very good. Okay. Last but not least, our entree, the picadillo. So this also has the lentils in it. So it is packed with fiber. And you got some really good, common and comfortable vegetables. It's not like you're throwing something in there that your kid might not like. This is like, that's a potato and that's a carrot and that's a pea.
It tastes like comfort food.
Yeah. So good. It's kind of like a hamburger helper.
I was thinking more like a deconstructed shepherd's pie.
Yes, but with Mexican seasoning.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Can you imagine this with mashed potatoes on top?
That would be a really great way to use up any leftover mashed potatoes. You could just make a whole can of mashed potatoes with your retained ham and save the rest.
Yes. Yes. I love that. I love that. This is so good. What's really cool about picadillo is you can eat it by itself. You can eat it over rice. When we made it for Cole Maybe and in Casa, Esther ate it with brown rice and she was like, is this brown rice? She was like, her mind was blown because I use our perfect brown rice recipe. You can eat it, you can make it as a quesadilla stuffing and put cheese on top and cook it that way. Just don't add any extra water at the end of cooking so it's not too wet. You can put it in tacos as a taco filling. You can make tamales out of it. I know that's not traditional, but it would fit. You can also eat it with pasta if that's the grain that you have available. What was the other thing? That I don't remember the other one. Anyway, it's delicious, and I really hope you all will try it. These number 10 cans of potatoes will last you for so long, and they're so easy to freeze any leftovers. So after you freeze them, the texture will be just a little bit different, and they'll probably be best for making something like mashed potatoes. I would love to know if you could make something like this with it. The crispy potatoes, I think as long as you drain them and you let them dry out enough, they would still be a good contender for making the crispy potatoes. So yes, I have talked the whole time and I haven't asked if we have any comments or questions in the chat box.
Deborah was asking for the crispy ranch potatoes. She didn't see the recipe for that on the Google Drive. So let her know that we will be adding that.
So it is linked in the key takeaways document. It is not a food bank recipe card. So when you go to the key takeaways document, you'll see where it says smashed potatoes. That is the recipe that I played off of to make this. So actually, let me go in there and just write up what I did because it did end up changing just a little bit. So thanks, Deborah. I'll make sure that I write that up and I'll email that over to you.
And Nikki Wood said, I've never thought about this, but what an enormous time saver.
Such a huge time saver. Such a huge time saver. I mean, do you remember your grandma and your aunts in the kitchen, like peeling potatoes for like a huge crowd of people? I do. And it took so long. It took 5 people.
I just remember movies where like the punishment was the person had to go to the kitchen and peel the potatoes.
or snap the peas.
Yeah,
Yes, yes. It's just such a huge time saver. Very much.
And then Betsy Hughes Hunter said, where can I find a printout of these recipes?
So you can find so a printout. I have a formal written up recipe for the picadillo in the nutrition resource folder that is linked in the caption. It is the bit.ly link. It's bit.ly backslash capital ACFB nutrition resources. And you're going to look for episode number 22 and all of the recipes that the food bank has that can use these potatoes are there. And then if you go to the key takeaways document, a lot of my talking points are there about how much comes in the can, how many different ways can you use it, and then some of the recipes are linked there. So if you're looking for a specific one, please feel free to ask and I can direct you to it. It'll either be in the key takeaways or a document in the folder.
Great. And also link to that Google folder in the comments. So if you're on right now, you can just click that link and it will take you straight there.
Perfect. Perfect. Thanks, Joy. All right, my friends, I have gone my usual time. Was trying to go a little bit shorter, but that's okay. This was a lot of information. I was really excited about it, really excited to talk about it. So if you are a food bank partner, please take a risk and order some of these number 10 cans of potatoes and use some of the talking points from the key takeaways to talk to your community members about using them. And definitely make sure you tell them that they can freeze any leftovers because it's a lot of potatoes. So thanks for joining us today, and we will be back in on the second Tuesday of May. Yes, May is the next one. Second Tuesday, we will have Quarantine Kitchen. Third Tuesday, we will have the third episode of Come Bien en Casa. And then the fourth Tuesday, we will have Quarantine Kitchen again. So I hope you will join us. Thanks for